Welcome to European Utility Week, where we are joined by Logan Moodley from Conlog in South Africa. Logan, tell us a little about the power and energy space in Africa at the moment.
Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to chat. The power and energy industry in Africa, there's a lot of exciting developments. I think where we've come to is a place that supports creating access to energy for consumers, so a very consumer-centric space. I think what we have to focus on the continent today is how do we bring access to energy to the number of people that don't have access to energy in its most basic form. Largely the continent is challenged with supporting the right technology where I think as industry players we have a role to support customers would be to influence a technology that would support their requirements in the best possible way. Largely what we want to do for the African consumer is create an element of convenience. Generally the approach is a solution around technology that would bring that convenience, but I think understanding what these requirements are, visiting one utility from the other gives us some insights as an industry player in terms of how those requirements vary so significantly from the East African context to the West African context. And visiting here, the Europe Utility Week, I get a sense of what the consumer has an expectation on or around in the various European countries. And the one remark I have is that at a consumer level, these requirements are significantly different. So as an industry participant then, we've got to draw on these experiences and look at how best to resolve these challenges for consumers. Today, largely challenges in the European context would be how do I enable some form of intelligent billing and effective billing to support an energy consumer, whereas our challenge in Africa is, how do I actually have that consumer participate in the energy and distribution space altogether, having a connected consumer. So our challenges are vastly different, but the sentiments on the continent are positive. I think there's a lot of opportunities. Utilities are looking at this more effectively today, leaning away from just adopting technology towards understanding what these consumers need and how best to serve them.
Of course, Africa offers the opportunity to leapfrog many of the developmental stages that European technology has gone through.
Yes, definitely. And it's probably one of the exciting developments, looking at the population today, understanding that there's nearly 60% of that population under the age of 30. So therein, where many of them have the opportunity to engage with technology, they have an appreciation to want to understand how this evolves, and appreciation for understanding how that will impact their personal lives. So we look at the telco industry and how that's evolved on the continent. Today you have many consumers in the telco space adopting smartphones, whereas just not 5 years ago they didn't have access to telecoms at all. And the smartphone penetration brings an opportunity for these consumers to engage within the energy space somewhat differently. So that element of creating convenience for the end consumer is actually at an advanced stage compared to the journey that we've taken, or you may have taken in Europe. So technology advancement certainly has a role to play in terms of how we can serve these consumers. And those technology leaps certainly allows those consumers to take full advantage of mobile applications, creating convenience for purchasing electricity as an example, monitoring their bills more effectively, and becoming more aware of the energy consumption altogether.
Of course, the meter is still always the cornerstone of all of this.
Of course. I think creating that access point to the entire energy value chain is bringing that meter to the home. Turning on the first light bulb creates some element of convenience that typically we take for granted in some markets, but in Africa I think it's still one of the most dire needs that we have to face. And once you have that element of convenience, you're then able to engage with this significant population who has this need and want to have to learn. There's a curiosity about them that's now ignited purely by just having a meter in a home to bring electricity to that home and allowing them the opportunity to be engaged in a more sort of global sphere.
Logan, thanks very much for your insights.